Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Thank you very much for joining me once again. You're always most welcome. Well, today we have a nice brand new set from ICM, and it is the I-153, the captured Soviet pre-war I'm going to say biplane, but it's a biplane. What do they call it? A Seska plane, I think they call it. But it's basically a 1930s biplane captured by the Germans in this case, and it's got quite an interesting set because it incorporates the Luftwaffe pilots and ground personnel. This is quite interesting because as soon as I picked it up I thought, oh, hang on a minute, I think I know these guys, and you may know them too. If you remember, not very long ago I showed you my own collection of these. This is actually photographs from my very own cabinet, and you may recall some of these characters because you've seen them before. So we've got the pilot, one's been helped on with his parachute, strapping the parachute on, and there's the illustrations actually in the on the box art. So you've got the parachute guys, you've got the two officers, and you have one that looks like Adolf Galland. And I always jokingly say he looks like Adolf Galland. Obviously, he looks like Roger Moore. I think this one, like a young Roger Moore. And then we've got the guy that's got his working on the aircraft with his screwdriver, and then finally there's this chap who's got the toolbox as well. So if they look familiar, this is because the ICM have cleverly done another one of these combo sets, bringing in their two of their kits together to give you a really good value diorama set, basically. So I haven't seen the aircraft before at all, so it's going to be quite new for me. But obviously I'm familiar with the figures, which are excellent ones. Can't recommend them highly enough. So what is not to like? So let's have a read of what it says on here. It says, this has just arrived. It's first week in November. Just come off via the shipper from Kiev. So kit number 480994, and it says I-153 fighter with figures of 2 Luftwaffe officers, a pilot, and 4 ground personnel. Oh yes, there's another guy. I missed him actually. There's one at the back. We'll have a look at him in a second. He may be someone I don't recognise that particular figure actually. Anyway, it says figures showcase detailed clothing and equipment elements. Fighter reproduced with accurate geometry matching the real model. Okay. 3 markings available for the 153 in its Luftwaffe variant. And then on the side you can see the 3. It seems a very odd sort of thing for the Luftwaffe to have done this and actually had it in service, but anyway, and they probably used it as a spotter aircraft, probably on the eastern front of course. So they've captured it on the eastern front, they're probably going to use it on the eastern front. And you got basically red, yellow, or yeah, yellow again, really. And I'm sure we'll get into a lot more detail once we get inside the box, which we will do without further ado. So, here we go then. Thank you to ICM for providing the kit, by the way. Let's see what we've got here. I usually take great pleasure in getting into these because they're always interesting, and given that I have personal experience of making those figures, and I can strongly, genuinely recommend them to you. They look great with any Luftwaffe ground scene. They just suit so many different applications. Right then, if you can get in. So box in a box. And it's not a huge amount of sprues. 1 sprue for the separate men working. Do I recognise the other chap? Yeah, there's one character I don't quite recognise. Don't think it was in my set. Do we have any decals that float out? Yes, we do. Oh yes, here we go. So it's the usual sort of ICM standard, and again they very cleverly enable you to build up the swastika if you require it. Doesn't show it in the box art, but there it is. They cleverly produce it in such a way that it can be reproduced if the modeller so desires, to make it 100% authentic. And other than that, it's just a lot of crosses, isn't it, really? But very nice. And there's no excess carrier film visible here. That's very nicely done, in fairness. Nice little set. Don't seem to have any cover film for it on this occasion. No, it's not falling out. Nope, still seem to have any. Right, okay. Well, this won't take too long because it's quite a small aircraft, even in 48 scale. So, got here, there's obviously some bombs included that you won't use at all. So there's literally a whole sprue by the look of it that isn't going to be used with bombs on it, so just ignore that. Obviously the bag is just taken from another kit where they've actually got them dropping bombs. Probably as the Soviet version. But all the rest, yes indeed you're going to use all the ground personnel and the rest of the aircraft parts themselves. So, what have we got? Looks like we've got like a good old fashioned biplane style lattice structured cockpit area where the structure is made from tubular steel. Then you're going to put your seat in there. You've got the seat back and the main seat cushion. You've got your stick all going in there. Fairly rudimentary sort of a cockpit really. A few holes to drill. I'm not convinced you will need to drill those holes actually. I think that you should ignore that actually, because that's for when so it's the Soviet version with the weapons, and I think they've overlooked that. Actually I think that's a mistake. We'll see. Because it's not rigging, is it? No, I think that's an error. Just ignore those in red. Anyway, there are a few items to go on the side of the cockpit wall, along the fuselage, and then two halves of your fuselage come together. Fuselage goes onto the top of the wing. It's got that already assembled cockpit and main wing structure, and it looks like the wing comes in one piece in fact, so it's going to be fairly straightforward build this. So that's the main lower wing I should say. Then you've got the upper wing, again comes in one piece, and you've got your sort of main struts, and then you've got your tailplanes going in there as well. All very straightforward stuff. Almost looks like it builds like a 72nd scale kit. Very straightforward indeed. Then you've got your two-bladed prop. You've got your radial engine coming in there, and a fair bit of detail actually. You've got some like the exhaust ports detail going into the exhaust system, and you've got some detail showing the magnetos and things, which looks quite nice. And then bringing that onto the front of the actual fuselage, you've got your cowling covers here going around there, then there's a top cowling coming on here, and then your propeller, and finally the spinner there going in. And then you've got your undercarriage underneath. Now these had a retracting undercarriage. They twist and turn, so they turn, they rotate, and then flip backwards when they retract. Interestingly, so you could argue it's got a little bit of an advantage over something like a Gladiator, which didn't have retractable undercarriage, even though it's got slightly similar character to it in many ways. And it's got undercarriage doors as well. I don't think there's an option to actually have it in flight now, unfortunately. So there we go. But you have got the tail wheel, and there we go. That is your I-153 completed. And then here we've got some rigging. Oh, that looks fun, doesn't it? Yes. Well, anyway, some of those of you that watch this video are quite good at rigging, I'm sure, which doesn't include me, I'm afraid. Anyway, here we've got our German officers, and then we've got our chap. Actually, I did. Yes, I'm wrong, aren't I? I have got this character. I've got him on my BF109G6, the Tamiya one. Looking at the engine, he is. So this is the same character. So I am very familiar with these, and they are very nice figures, I've got to tell you. And when you've painted them up nicely, they look absolutely fantastic. And then we've got our colour call-outs. So we've got one that's in Vienna, based in Vienna. Then we've got a second one on the eastern front with the yellow. And then the third option is at the Rechlin Test Centre in Germany. So it's been evaluated, no doubt. Very nice. It actually says, I'll give you a little read of the sort of historical technical data, which I sort of glanced over at the beginning, which is not like me. I just didn't spot it actually. I'm actually not wearing my very close-up glasses today, so you have to forgive me. These look better on YouTube. They're more stylish, but they're also better for my general vision. But close up they're not so good, so please bear with me. It says the Soviet I-153 biplane fighter, also known as the Chaika, C-H-A-I-K-A, was created in 1938 by the Poporov Design Bureau. It was an advancement of the I-15 fighter line, featuring now with retracting landing gear, unlike the fixed on the earlier model. It was considered one of the most advanced biplane fighters of its time. A total of 3,437 of these aircraft were produced. Good gracious. The 153 was first used in combat against Japanese aviation in the skies over Mongolia in the summer of 1939. How about that? Yes, I'm not sure how well that would go. Japanese, what would they be running then? Isn't that when they had the Zero? Oh, that might not end well. By the time of the war between Germany and the Soviet Union began, this fighter was already considered completely obsolete. Its low speed made it unable to catch even some bomber modifications like the Ju-88 and the Dornier. Despite this, it continued to be used as a fighter and an air defence aircraft, and even as an attack aircraft. During Operation Barbarossa, advanced German forces captured a large number of these aircraft and on Soviet airfields, including the I-153. These were then used by the Luftwaffe for test flights, and some were subsequently transferred to Germany's allies, including Finland. And there's examples of it on skis, isn't there? I'm pretty sure that ICM do a version on skis. It's a very interesting aircraft, isn't it? It's just arrived a bit too late, perhaps, to be positive in World War II. It sort of arrived and was superior to time when it wasn't really needed. So I guess that was the main drawback of it. But not to worry. Let's have a look. What do we have in the bags? Because I think you're going to enjoy that. He says, box didn't fall back. Okay. Right. So just two bags. Look at the figures first. I say I am very familiar with these figures, having demonstrated them to you in the past. So I can highly recommend them. They really are a nice set. This sprue is worth its weight in gold, and it only costs, when you buy them separately, it's only about £18, I think, or something like that. Very, very good value indeed. They're just so well figured and so well observed, these figures. So you'll remember, got the chap I described as looking a bit like a young Roger Moore, and you're seeing him from behind here. His hands behind his back. Very, very nice figure that one is. A slight lean to the right. And then we've got the chap here who is... this is the pilot, in fact. This is the pilot. Oops, sorry. Who's got the parachute strapped on. And he's getting assisted by one of the ground crew. You see the parachute straps on the back. Again, really nice detail on these. For 48 scale, they are right up with Tamiya, these are. There really is a nice set of figures. Having detail painted them myself, I can certainly say that they were quite enjoyable. There's a tiny bit of flash on that one, isn't there? Just at the bottom of where his shoe and his shoe and his trousers seem to me it's a little bit of flash. But then you've got you've got the chap with the screwdriver in his hand. You've got actually sorry, it's not the screwdriver. That's actually I've made this mistake before. That's actually the handle of the toolbox, and then it then fixes to the toolbox, which is here, across there. Then you've got the parachute over here. You've got a parachute for the pilot, and then we've got some very nicely detailed the head of the chap that's got the toolbox. Sorry, that's the pilot. I'm getting them all mixed up here. Yeah, that is the pilot. The chap with the toolbox is got his face here. Yeah, that's nice, isn't it? Let's go around the back of the head. And then the chap that's the pilot here. Which is better if I do it that way up, I think. There we go. There's your pilot figure there. Head. Very detailed. And then we got the this is the torso and the body. Obviously, he's not doing I'm a teapot. He's got he's got the toolbox in his right hand. This chap at the end here. Then we've got the this figure here is the one that's bending, trying to assist the pilot. Oh, I hope that's what he's doing. He's trying to assist the pilot to get his parachute on. And then you have this chap with the long sort of trench coat, is the Adolf Galland style senior officer. Basically I think he's basically a German equivalent of a squadron leader. And you have here some wonderful detail with these kits. Look at the again, the face is absolutely superb. Look at the hands detail on the legs, all the creases that are in there, the trouser legs. The hands are absolutely fantastic, aren't they? And then over on this side you've got this is the guy that's actually, sorry, this is the chap that is slight focus problem, there we go. This is the one that's bending down with the screwdriver in his hand, working on the aircraft, and he's sort of kneeling, isn't he? Sort of squatting down on the ground, screwdriver in hand. There we go. Absolutely incredible. It's a really nice set, though. It's a really nice set. This one's got it's actually got a cloth in his hand. Have you made it say? It's got like a rag in his hand, wiping down the tail of the aircraft. But they're just so well figured and brilliantly observed characters with such nice detail on the uniforms, the boots, everything. It's just all there. Very nice though. It's actually good. One of my favourites. This. One of my favourite 48 scale figure kits ever. So that's how strongly I recommend this one to you. And it goes quite nicely with this aircraft because just gives it a bit of animation. Well, I think that pilot who's about to get in it is a braver soul than me, to be honest. Anyway, let's look at the actual aircraft itself. So it's not one I've seen before. So right, and this is quite a straightforward build. Now this is the one worth keeping, these of course, but this is the one sprue that you actually won't use, and it's the one that's laden with all the weapons, as would have been used by the Soviets. It's got the rails and the bombs actually on it. Quite a nice selection of bombs, definitely worth keeping in your spares box, that one. So I'll pop that back in the bag. And we'll look at what we are going to use. So we've got, it's a very short, stubby little aircraft, of course. So we've got this short, stubby fuselage, complete with tail. Very nicely moulded though. This is really detailed. Look at that. Got all the stretch fabric effect over the ribs. Very nice. And you've got the struts there. These are the support struts for the tailplane actually on the left. That's very good. On the other side you've got the opposite side. So the tailplane, they've actually given you like a two-sided tail. You see that? And then here it interfaces with it like that. Old school really. And then over here we've got the other side, and then we've got our landing gear as well. Really rather nice, isn't it? That's excellent. So that's that. Then we have got the main sort of sprue, if you like, which has got the wings on it, and so that's the top wing, which is all in one piece, and it's very nice actually. Yeah, I like the way this has been done. Very nicely, almost wing not wings like the way that they've got the detail in here. Very nice, and of course it's got this beautiful sort of shaping to it. See that? It's almost like a bird's wing, isn't it? The way it ducks down in the middle. Very bird-like, I'd say. And again, some great detail on the surface. They're stretching over the all the various spar ribs. Oh, the actual, sorry, the wing ribs, I should say. Then we've got our two-bladed propeller. The wheels here. Are they weight on wheels? No, they don't seem to be weight on wheels, unfortunately. We've got our elevators over here, and here we've got the various cowls, and we've got the main cowling and the engine, and some nice detail here. So what I was mentioning about the exhaust, you've got the push rods there, and the exhaust pipes come out of the cylinders, and then down here we've got the main struts and the lower wing itself, and it tells you to drill the holes where you can see those little indentations. Don't bother, because you don't need it in this version. It's not going to have any bombs on it. I mean, you can do if you want to. You can always put the bombs on it, I suppose, but sort of not really intended on this version with the German markings on it. The Germans would send this into ground attack, I don't think, not very often anyway, unless they were really pushed. That's very nicely moulded though, isn't it? Some really very clean and still very crisp moulding, even though it's not a new tool. I think it's about 6-7 years old, possibly slightly more, the actual tooling on this particular one. And then here we've got our tiny little, you could almost call it a vestigial windscreen really. And I'm going to try and get into it. Let me in. Tricky this one. ICM's clear parts tend to be really amazing these days, they're very, very good. So look at this one, there's not much to it obviously, and yes, it's a lovely little thing. That's super little windscreen, that is. Look at that. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. That's very, very crisp. An absolutely fantastic piece. So overall, it's excellent actually. The only tiny thing I saw was just the tiniest threat of flash on the foot of one of the figures. But that is so, overall, so clean. I don't think you're going to have a lot of problems with something like that. I think cleanup is going to be very minimal indeed. Sorry about this. I know these bags play havoc with mine. They're not actually as loud in reality as they probably come across to you when you're watching the video. My camera seems to have a penchant for picking up very, very high frequency crackly sound. But anyway, there we go. So that will go back in the bag very nicely and easily. I think that's an absolutely cracking little kit actually, something a bit different. I'm pretty sure that I've seen it in other markings from ICM. I think they do it in the Finnish markings, amongst others. I think they do a Soviet version, I think they do a Finnish version. So it's quite an interesting aircraft, because clearly it was used by, it was sold to several air forces, and it was actually captured by the Germans in this case, obviously, and then used by them as well. So, quite an interesting subject. They just always sort of ace it, don't they, with the actual quality of the plastic. It seems to be so finely done. Marvellous. Well, where am I then in terms of a rating on this? I've got to say it's quite a cheap kit. This is retailing, I think, at about in the UK, I think it's about the £24 mark, maybe cheaper, maybe £20 to £24. A bargain. I mean, it's worth it. It's worth it just for the figures, because those figures can be used with any sort of World War II Luftwaffe sort of diorama scenario. Anything I don't like about it? I'm almost in 10 out of 10 over it. Maybe because there was just the fraction of hint of cleanup extra needed with some of those figures. It wasn't quite as clean as it might have been. I'm going to give it 9.5 out of 10. It's a cracking kit for what it costs, that, and the fact that these figures, you couldn't have a better set of figures added to a model set. And I actually hope that they will use those figures again, because they're so outstanding. They're worth going with other kits. It would have the same sort of diorama set effect on other aircraft, you know. Well done, ICM. 9.5 out of 10. Thank you very much for letting us have a look at that, and I hope you found that very interesting. And if that's not perhaps just your cup of tea, then there's plenty more to see from ICM from their latest releases coming very soon, so please stay tuned. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Please stay well, stay safe, and until next time, thanks for your time, look after yourselves, thanks a lot, and bye for now.